Well, hello and welcome again to our reading of Acts of the Apostles, and we're up to chapter 19, verse 21, and this is the riot at Ephesus. So it begins, hoste eplerothe tauta, when these things had been fulfilled, had been finished, which summarises what's gone before. Ethetot, this is the middle from tithani, it's perhaps proposed, he purposed or proposed, set for himself. So Paul proposed in his spirit, or in the spirit, that having gone through, this is a participle from diakomai, having gone through Macedonia and Achaia, so this is after this verb etheto, he proposed to go into Jerusalem, having said that metatogenesthai me eke, so we get metatot plus the infinitive, and the subject of the infinitive is me. So after, literally me to be there. So after I go there, day, it is necessary for me, kai also, idain Romain, to see Rome. Apostelas de esten Macadion. So having sent two of his diakonoi, these are the ones, this is the participle from diakonio, to two of the ones who were ministering to him in Macedonia. So having sent them to Macedonia, that is Timothy and Erastus, he himself, epesken. Now this is an interesting use of the word here. The word normally means to hold onto, can often mean to hinder. In Homer it can have the sense of to stay, and it probably has that sense here. So this may have been an ionic meaning of this epeko. You need to supply something like heauton or something here. But literally he held, understand himself, chronon, for a time in Asia. So he stayed for a while in Asia, would be the reasonable translation of this. Notice ace and in often used interchangeably, so it's not really into, but in here. So having sent into Macedonia two of those who were ministering to him, Timothy and Erastus, he himself stayed for a while in Asia. Egenetot de katatokairon ekanon tarakos uk oligos peritu hodu. And it came to pass that at that time, at that time there was uk oligos, no small. This is an example of what's known as litotes, where instead of saying something's big, you say it's not small. So there was at that time a no small tarakos disturbance. The verb is tarasso, to stir up. So there was no small disturbance, perites hodu, regarding the way. The hodos is this name for early Christianity. So there was some sort of trouble was brewing in regard to the way. Demetrios gatis onomati, for a certain man, Demetrius by name, and agora kopos. Now this kop root here is to labour, and aguron, of course, is from silver. So he is one who works in silver, so he's a silversmith. Poion, participle, making silver shrines of Artemis. Paraiketo, tois technitais ou oligon ergasian. It's imperfect here. He used to provide, again, litotes, no small amount of work for the technitais, for the craftsmen. So Demetrius is maker of these shrines, and he is making a good living and giving lots of work to the craftsmen. So he provided no small work for the craftsmen. Now this is a reference, of course, to the famous temple of Artemis. The Artemis at Ephesus was of Asiatic origin and differed quite markedly from the Greek Artemis, the huntress. The present temple, which is talked about here, was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, and replaced an earlier temple that was destroyed by Herostratus about 356 BC. He apparently destroyed it, he said, so to make a name for himself. How many politicians have done this over the years? So this second temple was destroyed by the Goths in 262 AD, and if you visit there today, you'll see one lonely pillar, which has been erected in modern times, and a few bits of scattered marble are all that's left of that temple. So now the hus refers to these technities. So having gathered together from sun athrio, here it must be sun athroio, having gathered together, him having gathered them together, and tous ergitas, the workers peritoiauta, the workers regarding such things, so those in related trades, those in related professions perhaps. He said, Andres, O men, epitasthai, you know that the subject here is he euporia, which is wealth. You know that there is for us wealth from this work. And you see and you hear that, now the sentence becomes a little bit complicated here. The subject is on the next line and the main verb is down here, and it takes a genitive, and so I think that verb is what's making this and this in the genitive. So we'll see how that works. So you see and you hear that this Paul, having persuaded hikanon oklon, a large crowd, met estasin, he transfers them from, not only from Ephesus, but almost from all of Asia. Transfer in the sense of he takes them away from the worship of Artemis, so perhaps leads them astray. So he leads astray not only a great crowd of those from Ephesus, but almost from all of Asia, slight overstatement here. Legon, saying, hoti, that, hoi genomenoi, those things existing by means of hands, so those things that are made by hands, uk ac theoi, are not gods. Monon de tuta kindenue hemin tomeras es epilegmon es elthane. So not only this, now the top meros is the portion. So it's basically the share that we get from our work. So we might say our share. So not only does this, the share for us, not only does our share from this work, kindune, run the risk, be in danger, and then we have an infinitive here, literally to come into apolegmon, to be set at naught. Apolegmos means refutation or discredit, so to come into discredit. So not only does this, our portion, perhaps our livelihood, run the risk of coming into discredit. This word is only here in all Greek. There is a verb apelenko, to repudiate, from which this must be derived. So not only does this portion for us, so this income for us, run the risk of coming into disrepute, alakai, but also the top goes with hieron here, the temple of the great goddess Artemis runs the risk, this is all after this Kin Dunue, runs the risk to be reckoned as Uthen for Uden, reckoned as nothing. Reckoned as nothing. This is the passive from logisto, to reckon. And again after Kinduno, it runs the risk to be about also kath iresthai here, and to be robbed, that is for the temple, to be robbed of the majesty. This is this verb here, megalotes, this is a genitive, to be robbed of its very majesty, the majesty which all of Asia and the inhabited world, Sebetai, shows respect for. So that's a long, rather difficult sentence there. Let me quickly do that again. So not only does this part, this portion for us, so not only does our livelihood run the risk of coming into disrepute, but also the temple of Artemis, it runs the risk that the temple of the great goddess Artemis to be reckoned as naught, and to be about to be robbed of its greatness, the greatness which all Asia and the inhabited world respects or reverences. Accusantes de kai genomenoi pleres thumu. So having heard this, and having become full of anger, ekrasdon, they were crying out, saying, great is Artemis of the Ephesians. And the city, Epleisthe, was full, takes a genitive, was full of sun kusios. This is a word meaning confusion. It's from sun, and this is from keo, to pour. So it's got the sense of pouring everything out, tipping everything out, and hence everything being in a state of confusion. And so this is the abstract noun sun kusis. So the city was filled with confusion, and Hormesan, they set out homothumadon with one accord. Harpasdo is to drag, so dragging along with them into the theatre Gaius, so Gaius, and Aristarchus Macedonians, who were sun ek demus, fellow travellers of Paul. The ek demos is someone who is outside of their country, so they're travellers, and the sun is fellow, so fellow travellers of Paul. Genitive absolute, Paulu de Boulomenu, Paul, although Paul wanted a Selthane to enter into, literally to the people, so he wanted to go among the people, the disciples, uk aeon auton. Now this is the past tense of eao here, I think, so they would not allow him. So the disciples would not allow him. This is from that verb eao, to allow, and you're getting a contraction here from the on, and you're getting a funny sort of augment here, and then alpha plus the on contracts to omega. So the disciples would not allow him, but certain ones of the Asiarchs, these must have been local rulers of some sort, being friendly to him, having sent to him, they besought him not to give himself to the theatre where all the people were gathered. So they also told him not to go there, it was too dangerous. Aloi men un alo ti ekrasden. So this is that Greek idiom which is very, very common in classical Greek. So some were crying out one thing and some crying out something else. And Greek does it very compactly. Literally, others then were crying out some other thing. So some were saying one thing and some saying another. For the ecclesia, the assembly, now this participle here is connected with that word we had above. If I can locate it here. Oh yeah, up here. This is a noun connected with sunkeo, and here is the verb sunkeo. This is the perfect passive participle. So the assembly had been thrown into confusion. So we're getting it to periphrastic construction with the verb to be in the past tense. So this will be a pluperfect passive essentially here. So for the assembly had been thrown into turmoil, and the majority, hoi pleus, this is actually nominative plural. It will be pleones, and then the nu is gone and you get a funny contraction, but it is actually nominative plural. For the majority did not know, from oida, on account of what, that is why, sun eleluthesan, they had pluperfect come together, from erkamai. Ek tu oklu, unfortunately we've got a page break here, and there's also variant readings as well, which makes it difficult. You need to consult commentary here on this. The verb is sun bibasan. It could mean to put forward, but that's not the usual meaning. The usual meaning of sun bibadzo is to put together, sometimes to interpret, sometimes to instruct, to put things together for somebody else, and then i.e. to instruct them. But here it can't really have that meaning. It really means put forward. And there is a variant reading here in the Textus Receptus, which has proeb bibasen, which does have the meaning of put forward. So there's a bit of textual issues here. You'd need to consult a commentary for all the details. So we'll just translate it as put forward. And this is so from the crowd, and we're not told who the they are. They, whoever they are, they put forward, they sent out Alexandros. And we get a genitive absolute, and the Jews pro-ballon literally throwing him in front. So we have so probably take that bit first. The Jews having, well, put him out as their spokesman, I'm not sure who the they are here, they put forward Alexander from the crowd. And Alexander katasesas, this is from kataseo, to shake, so waving his hand, he wished homologesthai to demo. He wished to make a defence from apologio. He wished to make, we get our word apology from this, he wished to make a defence to the demos, to the people. And the people, epignontes, again we're not told exactly who this is, but this is the crowd, recognising that he is a Jew. There was one voice, mia phone, from all of them. Hos epi horas duo goes together. Now this hos epi we've seen before, I think in Acts. It's idiomatic here. It means approximately. So from all of them crying out for about 2 hours. So there was one voice from all of them crying out for about 2 hours, and they said, Megale he Artemis Ephesion. Great is Artemis of the Ephesians. Katastelas de ho grammatus. Katastelas has the meaning of having quietened down, or perhaps almost calmed them down, put them in their place. So having quieted them, it's found with that meaning in 3rd Maccabees in the Septuagint, but it's quite rare, and it's used again, and I think in the next verse we'll see it again down here, katastalmenus. So the grammatus, the scribe, having calmed them down, having calmed the crowd down, Farsi, he says, now this is from Fami, this is historic present, so Fami, face is the third person singular, present from Fami. So he says, men, Ephesian men, tis gar esti anthropon, for who is there of men who does not know the city of the Ephesians, being participle agreeing with Polin, city of the Ephesians being a neokoron. This is a classical word. It means a guardian or temple keeper. The derivative is uncertain. It's possibly from neos, a temple, and the kor, there is a verb koreo, to sweep out. So a temple sweeper, and hence someone who looks after or guards and protects the temple. Here it's just being used in a more generic sense, so in a more abstract sense. For who among men does not know that the city of the Ephesians is a guardian of the great Artemis, and so the great temple of Artemis, and of the Diopetus. Now this is a very funny word here. It's possibly best to spell it with a capital delta. It's the thing that fell. The pet root is from petamai, to fly or to fall here. The thing that fell, and dio is the root from Zeus. In classical Greek, Zeus is the nominative, and dios is the genitive, and dia is the accusative for Zeus, and di the dative. So it has a slightly different root in the oblique cases, and that's where this dio is coming from. So here we are. We've got this dio petus, the thing having fallen from the sky or fallen from Zeus. This is possibly a reference to a meteorite or a meteor. It's some kind of magic rock. Meteors were regarded as having come out from Zeus, and so they were regarded as having magical properties and often turned into ornaments in temples. And this must be some reference to that. An antireton. Now this is from and so alpha privative, anti, and the ret is from that aorist passive root you get from Lego. So the word means that which you cannot speak against. So undeniable or irrefutable. So therefore, genitive absolute then, these things being irrefutable, what I've just said, and we get this funny use of deon here, which is a participle from deo, probably being used as a kind of accusative absolute here. So since these things are irrefutable, it is necessary for us, katistalmenos, keeping the peace, it's that same verb we had above, to quieten down, necessary for us to be, huparkein, just used like the infinitive of the verb to be quiet, to be calmed down, and prasein, to do, maiden, nothing propetes, nothing rash. This is used with that meaning in the Septuagint. It means to rush forward, so hence rash. Agagati, for you brought, aorist, for you lot have brought these men who are neither robbers of temples, the verb is sula here and hereon, robbers of temples, nor ones blaspheming our goddess. Notice the article here with theon. Hence goddess. If therefore Demetrius and those craftsmen with him have logon pros tina. Logon is an issue or a case against anyone. Agoria I agontai. Now this is probably a Latinism here, or possibly a Latinism. The agontai, coming from the Latin aguntor, which is to conduct an agorioi, literally market days, or perhaps court days, because the courts were held in the in the same area as the marketplace. So, in other words, it's saying here there are court days are held. So there are days when they can go to court, and there are consuls. This is the Greek form or Greek version of the Latin consul. We've seen that earlier in Acts. We get here third person plural imperative from enkallio, which is to bring a case against somebody or to lay charges. So let them, this is imperative, third person plural, let them lay charges against one another. But if you are seeking something further, again the variant readings here, epiluthesetai, it will be settled. This is the future passive here from epiluo. It will be settled in the lawful assembly. For we run the risk to be, here's the passive of this enkallio, we run the risk of being charged, and it takes genitive, with sedition, with stasis, regarding tes hemeron, we have to supply hemeras or something, regarding this day. Genitive absolute, there being no reason for it, there's no particular reason for us doing this. Perihu, regarding which, and then in square brackets we will not be able, from dunamai, apot dunai, to give an account regarding this sunstrathes, this riotous gathering. This word occurs elsewhere in classical Greek, and it's in the Septuagint, regarding this riotous gathering. And having said these things, he dismissed the assembly. And that is the end of chapter 19.